All right, guys, Jameson and Alex here. Today we are talking about the College of Arcanists Bard. This is from the Herbarium Botanical Supplement.
Yes.
So, yes, smaller Kickstarter, but very interesting.
Yeah.
So, if you're new to the series, what we're going to do is go through all the abilities gained in the subclass.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to rate the roleplay, combat, and synergy based on how the abilities gained improve on the base class abilities. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to be entered in our D&D Beyond Sourcebook Bundle giveaway.
Yep.
Let's get right into it. Alex, what do we get with this subclass?
The shorthand is if you want options, and you want options for your options, and then your options to have options, we got the College of the Bards here. Start basic, simple. Starting off with inky fingers, you get proficiency with calligrapher's tools. These tools can act as an arcane focused where required. So you can use it as your spellcasting focus, which is fantastic. Next up, we have Little Blessings. Once per day, you can spend 10 minutes making a small charm that can either be used by you or given to another creature of your choice. You choose which type of charm you are making at this time. The charm's magical effect lasts for 24 hours, after which point it becomes a mundane item. You can only make one charm per long rest. So there's 5 of these different ones to pick from. The first one is the apple, a single apple pip drilled through and hung on a silver chain. The first time that a creature bearing this charm is given a bardic inspiration die, after acquiring this charm, it can be given without expending one use of the bardic inspiration feat.
All right.
Next one is basil, a dried sprig of basil folded into a paper packet. As an action, the creature that has been given this charm can choose one ability score to increase by 1. So the score, not the modifier, for the duration of 1 hour. If the increased ability score results in a higher ability modifier, the increased modifier should also be applied for the duration of the charm's effect. After an hour has passed, the creature's ability score reverts to its usual value, and the charm becomes a mundane item.
That one's interesting because, if you're trying to, bump up a specific skill just for an hour.
Yeah, especially if it gets you to the modifier.
Yeah, you really want to. There's not really much reason to do it without.
So you got a 14 to get you a 15.
Okay, sure.
Yep.
Next up is the bramble. This charm is made from a smooth piece of bramblewood tied with red thread. The creature carrying this charm can re-roll one attack roll, saving throw, or ability check. Upon doing so, they must use the new roll. After this, the charm becomes a mundane item. So essentially, just one use of the luck. Mint is the next one, with this charm made from mint leaves sewn into a red cloth envelope, is commonly tucked in a pocket or sewn into clothing. While in possession of this talisman, the bearer gains one use of the message cantrip. After using this cantrip once, the charm becomes a mundane item. And then lastly, we have birch. This paper talisman is made from the bark of a birch tree. At any point, the creature in possession of this charm may recall the tune or story that was performed the last time that you used the Song of Rest bark feature. In doing so, they may benefit from healing equivalent to your current Song of Rest level, after which the charm returns to being a mundane item. So lots of options.
Yes.
So they are limited use. Yep. Keep in mind.
Next up at level 6 is sword letters. Having made plenty of charms in your lifetime, you've now learned how to adapt those trinkets into paper talismans suitable for battle. As with the Little Blessings feat, this trinket can be made in 10 minutes and last for 24 hours. Only one talisman can be created per long rest. First one is calculating letter. On a successful attack roll, one of the damage dice can be re-rolled, and you can choose which result to use. This can be done 3 times before the letter loses all magical properties and becomes a mundane item. Next up is lucky letter. The bearer of this letter may roll with advantage on one attack roll, one saving throw, or one ability check of their choice, after which the letter loses all magical properties and becomes a mundane item.
We also have reviving letter. The bearer of this letter is protected from the inevitability of death. The first time that they are reduced to 0 hit points, they drop to 1 hit point instead. After using this ability, the letter becomes a mundane item. Also have shielding letter. The bearer of this letter has one use of the shield spell. After use, the letter loses its magical properties and becomes a mundane item. And lastly, we have the vicious letter. The bearer of this letter deals extra psychic damage once per round when making a physical attack. This damage is equal to your proficiency bonus. Once a bonus action is used to activate the letter, it is active for 1 minute, then becomes a mundane item. So, more options to go on top of your other options.
And as I said before, if you would like your options to have options, level 14 we have Masterpiece. You've reached the peak of your craft and are now able to craft items that only masters can dream of creating. Once per month, you can create a Masterpiece item. This can be any small-sized item such as an amulet, crown, ring, etc. The item can be kept by yourself or given to another creature of your choosing. The Masterpiece takes 8 hours of downtime to make, which can be spread across several days if desired. Its magical efficacy, it lasts for a month before it becomes a mundane item. So it takes once a month, but it does last for a month, so good. The Masterpiece of Determination. The metal for this Masterpiece comes from a tool or weapon that has been broken during use. When lowering the hit points of a creature to 0, or when landing a critical hit on an attack, you may make one extra attack as a bonus action. So that's what's going to happen a ton, but when it does, it's going to feel really juicy.
Right.
Could you imagine champion fighters with their 15% crit chance just loving every bit of this?
Mm-hmm.
Next up is the Masterpiece of Enchantment. A masterpiece reforged from an old spellcasting focus. Once per day, the holder can cast any spell at one level higher than the spell's base level without having to expend a higher slot to do so, but only if they were able to cast spells of that higher level. The original spell slot is still expended. So essentially you can upcast a spell once for free without having to pay the upcasted cost of it.
Right. You also have Masterpiece of Relocation. Masterpiece is made from an item worn at a wedding or pairing ceremony. This masterpiece consists of 2 matching pieces, which can be given to 2 separate creatures. The pieces allow one bearer to use their reaction to swap positions with the other, if they are willing and within 100 feet of each other. This can be done 3 times before requiring a long rest. So definitely some shenanigans can be had with that. And then Masterpiece of Spirits is made by trapping a wandering spirit inside the item during its creation. The spirit appears as a glowing ball of light when summoned and can be called upon once per day for up to 1 hour. While it is active, the bearer has advantage on wisdom and charisma saving throws and gains immunity to being charmed or frightened. And lastly, we have the Masterpiece of Unmaking, which is made from natural and earthly materials, untouched by magic. When the bearer is attuned to this masterpiece and makes a successful attack against a spellcaster, the spellcaster must make a Constitution saving throw for concentration with disadvantage. So kind of get your Mage Slayer in there.
Yep.
But yeah, you get lots of options with this that are, some of these are pretty potent.
Yes.
So,
some of them not so much.
You're right. Yeah, so we'll get into the details of that in the rating portion of the video.
Whoa.
First up is the roleplay asterisk, as always. Talking about roleplay, we're talking about interacting with the world around you, interacting with NPCs, non-combat scenarios, avoiding combat, basically things outside the initiative order. Not talking about your class fantasy, history, lore, background. That's on you as a player. We can't rate you, but we can rate the abilities gained in the subclass, how they might improve your potential in those roleplay scenarios.
Yep.
So, looking at this, we have some very interesting options. The only thing is, a lot of these are one-time use.
Uh-huh.
And with that, they can be niche as well. Yep. So, you get your bonus for free, obviously, with the tool, calligraphy tools, and, the arcane focus, if that needs to be. But that's typically not something that comes up that often, most of the time. The charm stuff has some potential, especially when you're looking at increasing an ability score by 1. The only thing is that's very specific, and you need someone to have an odd number ability score, which typically players don't try to linger on, odd ability scores, because you get your ability score increase, and you try to get all even numbers as soon as possible. Typically, that's what you see. So that can be useful early on. Maybe as you get higher level, it becomes relevant, just because people don't like to sit on odd ability scores. The other thing with the rerolls is nice. The message cantrip, sure, you can give someone the way to maybe scout ahead and relay information back that otherwise would not normally be able to do so. Like a rogue or something could sneak up and they could use message to send back something for the scouting report kind of thing. The extra healing, sure, can come into play as an indirect kind of effect with that. So those are nice. The sword letters are much more on the combat side of things, outside of maybe lucky letter, because you can use it on a saving throw or ability check. Which is that those can come up in roleplay, just less frequent on that. The masterpiece one can come into play a little bit, but you if you're a spellcaster, if you have the upcasted spell slot, you can do some extra shenanigans for certain spells that could be upcast, like fly and things like that.
Yep.
But that's kind of feels bad to cast a lower level spells when you're 14 upcasted for free. You want to cast like your max level spell upcast. So
yeah, it's like I'll just
spend
a level 4 spell slot to cast level 3 spell.
Right.
I'll just spend spell slot.
Right. So that is something on there. There is some use. A lot of this has potential.
Yep.
Though they are very limited and, circumstantial.
Yep.
So we went with a 3.5. When they do hit, they can be good. And you have multiple options across the board to try to give you more chances for those things to occur. But, part of it too is you have to spend time to craft these things. 10 minutes. So sometimes you don't have time to spend 10 minutes to stop and, do something. Sometimes you do. And then it's great.
You don't make it one a day anyway, is the other thing. So,
yeah.
I was like, well, I used one, so now I spend 2 minutes to make one. I was like, no, you can't.
Right.
You can't. One of those things, like, it would just make it a habit of either, like, the very end of your day before you do your long rest for the next day, you make it, or you do it at the start of your day. Like, if you finish the long rest, you make it, before you start the rest of your day. Otherwise, you're like, you're just going to stop for 10 minutes in the middle of doing something. On the combat side of things, it's going to be a rolling similarity here. Because there's a lot of A, interesting, and B, effective options. As like Jameson said, people aren't going to be sitting on plus, odd numbers. So, plus ones to, where it needs a +1 to get a higher modifier. I'll butcher that a little bit better next time. But if so, that's very wonderful to be able to give somebody an extra +1 to either their main attacking stat, give them some extra health, helping out with a saving throws if it's wisdom or, whatever else may be. And of course, being able to re-roll an attack roll or saving throw, always a good thing. Like those two options are going to be clearly the combat-based ones.
Go-to, yeah.
Now you do have the Bardic Inspiration. The extra use is fine. I just don't think it holds a candle to the other two options, in my personal opinion. And then Song of Rest, again, it's not bad because you're going to get some extra healing in there. But I think the other two options, if you're wanting to really focus on what you can get for combat, are better options. But again, variety and the choice is all up to you. So that's never a bad thing to have the choices. Sword letters is when I start to have, I guess, questions.
Sure.
Because I look at reviving letter is death ward.
Yeah.
It's straight up death ward. And then shielding letter is straight up shield.
Right.
That's a level 1 spell and a level 4 spell.
Yes, though, I mean, to be fair, you're always going to use shield. You might have the reviving letter and it go the whole day and never even trigger because if the person doesn't go down,
this is correct.
Then they never trigger it.
But at the same time, shield's just going to save you from one attack one time.
Right.
And it's just like,
I remember multi-attack is a thing. I'm not crazy about Death Ward in the first place just because multi-attack.
I'm not a huge fan. I'm just saying, just comparing the way those powers are done.
Right.
It seems one of those is to me infinitely better.
And I think,
however, I'm not bothering with either one of those.
Yep, this is what I was
because the first two are just better again anyway. Because calculating letter is going to let you reroll damage die 3 different times.
Sure.
Specifically, if you're giving that to somebody and it's like they're got like a D12 on their weapon and they roll a 2, you're like, oh, there's an extra 10 damage. But then there's lucky letter because this is like, unless you're wanting to change things up, which I don't blame you, it's your choice. But if you're wanting the most potent option, most reliable, you're taking lucky letter because you're just getting a roll advantage on attack roll or saving throw. And me, I know everybody wants to reroll attack rolls, which is doing damage is great. But re-rolling that saving throw, so you take half damage from the giant ability, or that changes whether you got dominated person or not,
right,
is way more important.
The other thing too is if the thing is you could use this with Bardic Inspiration as well.
Sure.
So you could give yourself advantage and use a Bardic.
Why would you not?
Like assuming like this early, you can't do it to yourself,
right?
Or whatever. But if you give it to somebody else, they could use it, and on top of that, the Bardic Inspiration.
So. That's there. And of course, then extra psychic damage is not a problem.
Yeah, I'd take that. Honestly, I'd probably take that one. That's my preference.
Sure. But it is only once per round, though. If it was like with every attack, I'd be like, you give that to a fighter in a nanosecond and just starts eating stuff.
Sure.
But that one's not a bad option either. My complaint really is the comparison to reviving and shielding. And
sure. No, that's understandable, for sure.
I think, though, that's number 4 and number 5 of the choices. The other 3, I think, are both all the other 3 are better than the other 2.
Sure.
And then the capstone. These are all as a whole. It sounds like I've kind of been beating this down a little bit. I love the idea of this.
Oh yeah,
because love it's. I made the comment to Jameson when I first read this. This feels like if you wanted more Bard in your Bard to have Bard. I made the thing with the options earlier because it's the whole jack of all trades. You can do just a little bit of everything with this.
Yeah.
But part of it's going to be because you can only do it, one a day.
Mm-hmm.
If you chose wrong, or
doesn't get used,
you
or
can't
whatever.
you can't undo it.
Right.
It's not like you can make with the little bitty one. I think I would have liked to have seen you be able to make the little one like multiple times a day. You get to higher levels, like
sure.
maybe starting at level 11 or something.
Yeah, because it's not that potent.
Yeah. Just anyway, but of course, the rest of these in here, you're going to get extra attacks when you crit or knock somebody down. Again, that also lasts for a month.
Right.
These big ones, once you get to these are more reliable use. They're not once per day things. Well, some of them are, I guess.
Right.
Like the free upcast thing is like, it sounds interesting, but it's really just I don't think it's as impactful as it should be for this high level.
I think at 14, 15, and 16, it's great, but it's not that good. But once you get 2 9th level spell slots, I think it's when shenanigans.
You can't upcast a 9.
Well, you can upcast an 8 to 9.
Yeah.
But I mean, even that, like a lot of 8th level spells, upcast aren't that much better.
Right. There's not really changing that much. Yeah. It's better just unlocking the 8th level spell than upcasting it to 9. The relocation thing might be my favorite one, just because it creates some interesting shenanigans, but for the funnies, but also because you can save somebody by swapping 2 people's places around. Mm-hmm. It's probably my favorite one.
Switch the wizard and the barbarian.
Right, but probably the one you would want to take most often might be the Masterpiece of Spirits, because you've got somebody in your party that struggles with wisdom and charisma saving throws. AKA your barbarian.
Sure.
Is going to struggle with one of those most likely, or somebody else is going to, and you're like, the last thing you want is your barbarian dominated person,
right,
in the middle of a fight.
Yeah,
because
they're always the target, right? Let's be honest.
That creates utter chaos, because that's happened in our play group before. There's like, it scarred me. It scarred me forever. But I think that's the most reliable one, personal opinion.
Sure.
And then, of course, if you do come across casters, that last one's great to like screwing around with their spells.
Yeah.
But there's the issue. You can only make one a month.
Right. So you'd have to be very specific. Like the big bad is a spellcaster.
Yep.
And they're like part of a, spellcaster coven or something. Ooh. Who knows? So there's lots of casters.
Yeah. This just hit me. The one thing I think I would do is, and you can make them scale dramatically. You could spend multiple uses of Bardic Inspiration to reroll these.
Yeah.
Maybe you can only do that once a day.
Sure.
So
once a day you can spend for.
If you know, like you've had the extra attacks on crits for like a week, but now you're about to go into a evil wizard academy, and you're like, I'm really kind of wish I had that.
Or even if you just had the option to like expend spell slots to make more of these things.
Yeah,
like you cast a first level spell slot to do the low level one, a
3,
second or third,
and then a 5 or something. Yeah, I don't care. You can argue about the semantics there, but. All that, and man, this is going to be a long one. We went with 3.5 again out of a 5. That's going to roll over into the synergy as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's really much to say in the synergy department, just because we've already said a lot of it already. There's some great utility and cool options, but the real drawback is the limited use.
It's
the limited use of the options.
Yeah, for sure.
The limited uses of the options, which is just severely handicaps.
Again, stress this. Love the flavor. Love the idea behind it. It's just you're going to get a lot of feels bad when you chose what you thought would be cool or be interesting or be powerful, and it's just not get used.
Right. So, but the thing is, when they are useful and the situations do come up and they are being used, it's great.
It feels great.
Especially the ones that have longer durations, like the 1 hour ability score check. Maybe you just, since that you're just going to use them yourself, you just keep one of your stats odd and you just be selfish and keep it for yourself. You just get that one free ability score.
You could.
You could do that.
Especially if it goes into you're maxing out your stat because you somehow got to a 19 or you get to a 17 pretty quickly.
Yeah.
That extra +1 on your spell attacks and your spell save DC.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's maybe some gray areas with that. Like, I mean, technically you probably shouldn't be able to do it like Gauntlets of Ogre Strength that set your ability scores to a specific stat.
Ooh.
It usually sets them to...
That's interesting.
But, like, technically it's supposed to set it to that, but then you're doing this thing that adds
after.
on top of that.
Yeah.
So like you could maybe convince the DM, be like, hey, I know this isn't really how it probably should work, but
it's how it's written.
Could we work with it? It's only for an hour, you know. So I mean, stuff like that could be cool.
I
to allow it to happen.
I see. I know he made this with me, but I'm super lenient about things like that. If a player's creative enough and it's not something completely outlandish,
Right?
Like, go for it. Again, the rule of fun is the most important thing to me when doing this silly game.
So all that being said, we went with a 3.5 as well. When it does hit, it's nice, but it's very limited, so it's hard to rate it too high.
The reliability is going to be the biggest thing holding this back.
Yeah.
You chose this. Is it used? If it is, fantastic. If it's not, like that, dadgummit.
I do like these subclasses that give you multiple options at different points in time, kind of like Totem, Warrior Barbarian.
Yep.
The Hag Patron Warlocks that we've done, some of those kind of things, official and unofficial.
And as much as we clown on Warlocks as a whole at times, it's one of the best things about them is the fact that you can build the same subclass of a Warlock completely different based on which
packs and
you take.
invocations. Yeah, for sure.
It's the best thing about them.
So that is cool. That is nice. You get some extra utility. Yeah. But that's gonna be it for today, guys. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications so you know when all of our new videos are coming out. Check out our Patreon.
Yes.
More stuff with that. So help support us. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
But that's all for today, guys.